These days, everything is easier to access, like anything, everywhere, online, thanks to social media. Hi, everybody. I'm Casey Belmonte, and you're watching Rappler Talk. We have with us here today Congresswoman Margarita Nograles, or if you're online on TikTok or if you're active on Lawyer Talk, as they call it, you might know her better as Attorney Migs. She will be with us today to talk about how she delved into social media to help people actually understand the law easier. Hi, Attorney. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Casey. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to see where our discussions will go for today.
So, I'll head on to the first question. What made you decide to go on TikTok and to discuss in layman's terms, the laws? Like, how did you know that there was a demand for it?
Siguro nagsimula siya law school pa lang. When you're studying the laws, all these legalese, these terms, and you talk to your classmates, diba, before class, explaining some aspects. Parang mabigat kasi yung terms and everything. And when you simplify things, na alam mo how to share or explain some matters that the layman would understand, then dun mo rin alam kung naiintindihan mo ba yung batas. And then when I started practicing, ang dami ko nakakausap because with my firm, we did free legal aid. We do free legal aid even until now. And maraming diba nagtatanong, ano po ba yon? Anong explanation? And when you get to explain it in the simple terms or terminology, or you get to relate it to the everyday life on like some examples, mas naiintindihan nila. And pag mas naiintindihan, mas alam nila kung anong gagawin. And with social media and all, I started doing it. It was Ask Attorney Migs pa before it became Paano Ba Attorney. And when I saw the comments, the questions na parang nakakatulong, na hindi naman lahat, 'di ba, kakasuhan nila, but at least they know their rights and they know their options with some matters. And so I did that, and then I did the whole mas may energy because of you have to sustain siguro the ones watching to be able to, 'di ba, really finish the video kumbaga in the short time, but the attention span is a little bit short, especially for the younger generation. So parang, okay, linabas ko na lang yung energy ko na parang ganun makulit para mas maintindihan, mas matapos. Because sometimes you can't get those small things eh. When you get those small things in bits and pieces, baka ma-misinform and mahirap pagdating sa law. And let's be realistic, minsan boring naman talaga pag pinag-uusapan yung batas. So parang may konting energy, may konting life naman to something usually na boring topic. Yeah.
Do you think as public officials, parang on social media, do you have to have parang social media guidelines? I don't know if you've seen recently, but there was a local government official na nag-viral, I guess, yung TikTok niya kasi he hopped on a trend. Do you think, kunyari, hopping on a trend, showing your personality off on like social media platforms, how should public officials act or paano yun?
You know, I would get that because yung personality ko, like talagang personality, like when I'm in the barangay, makikita mo talagang makulit ako. Because that's how I talk to people. That's how I talk to my close friends. There would be some comments sabihin, Congresswoman ka pa lang, ka pa naman din. Bakit ka ganyan? But parang ang OA mo, ang arte mo. But I always believe kasi na you have to be yourself in anything that you do, regardless of being in position, a public official, as a lawyer and all. Siyempre, dapat may decorum, di ba? Dapat respectable pa, hindi ka naman parang, you don't say anything mean or vulgar. But you always have to be yourself in anything that you do, if you're comfortable with it. In terms of hopping with the trend, it's a personal decision. But if it's not you, makikita niya ng tao, di ba? Even camera, talking to anyone. So kung hindi ka ganon, I'd say, don't na lang. Minsan sabihin nila with the TH ka, diba? Trying hard ka. But it's their own choice. If they want to hop on a trend and it works for them, then well and good. I just encourage siguro the public officials that hop on the trend, not to do like those dancing lang or yung mga uso. but to use that platform to educate, to reach out to people and to know what the people want, which what I'm doing is hopefully that also.
Ma'am, how do you plan your content? Like, do you base it off of, like, the pressing issues of the time? Or parang, kasi sometimes I would look at the comments on your videos and sometimes you would reply to the questions of your viewers. So parang, what takes, I guess, priority? Yung kailangan mong i-explain now kasi yun yung pumuputok, yung hindi maintindihan ng mga tao, or they're not trivial, but hindi sila yung important right now?
It really depends, no? Like I said, it started earlier pa, like with the Ask Attorney Mix. I think like midway pandemic. And so, marami nag-gather na comments. Marami din akong nakakausap because we have legal aid. So there are a lot of emails and there are a lot of, comments from the various social media platforms. So, usually, makikita mo may trend on the question. So, kung maraming ganon, or like iba-iba lang yung pagkakatanong, but ganon yung topic na gustong malaman ng mga tao, then I'll do a content. So, I actually have in my notes, like a list of those. Kasi minsan babasahin ko, okay, I have to talk about this and that. And then sometimes if it's a big issue, like, I think today I did like the prenup kasi diba, malaking issue yun. Issue siya ngayon sa mga chismosa dyan, diba? Sa mga marites. So, may ganon. It really would depend on anong gusto marinig ng tao. And I'll do the script. Diba? Parang, okay, what's the short version? How do you simplify to address these growing concerns or questions? But mostly, I think it's just really coming from those who are commenting or sending emails or queries or during the live, makikita mo yung mga various questions naman na may same or common topic.
Does it affect the bills that you're proposing, your legislative work? Do you get parang ideas na parang, a lot of people have concerns over this topic. Maybe it's something that we can take up on like some of the committees at the House of Representatives.
Yeah, I like the fact that, that's why I'm continuing it. Because you get to educate, but people really educate you too. And they share, especially when they share what they're going through. Especially with the legal aid, not just like in social media. When I talk to people who are actually going through the problems, right, and they share their stories, it makes me realize that these other bills, parang on a practical level, mahirapan pala. So mag-a-adjust ka, diba? And that's, I guess, the beauty of it, because I like to learn from other people mostly, because yung mga batas naman that mga bills that we're trying to pass, is really for the people and the ones na dapat hindi mahirapan. So I do welcome the comments. Wag lang bashing. But then yung comments na, they share their experience, or the ones that I talk to will say, alam mo, may mahirap dito sa aspeto na to. Or even, like, sometimes, even employers, employees, all walks of life, they'll share their experience. So you get to look into the gaps of the law, also how you can improve various bills, not just what I author, what I co-author, but even during committee hearings, kung may author ng isang bill na ganon, and then you can share your input na, I have people that have talked to me regarding this and that we might look into this other aspect. So, I learn more from those that share and engage.
Yeah. Would you be able to give like a specific example of when the online community that you've forged has influenced your legislative work?
I know this is Women's Month and probably papagalitan, but with like VAUSI, I talk a lot about women's laws, right? But meron mga lalaki that would say, paano naman kami mga lalaki? Diba? Which, equality din naman. Of course, we have to value that there's VAUSI and tagal sinulong yon. Another part of me is also thinking, paano naman din naaaping guys in this aspect? So, may ganon. There's also some aspects on the adultery and concubinage when I came out with that post na unfair nga talaga, hindi balance pagdating sa lalaki na nag-cheat and babae na nag-cheat, because it's easier for to file adultery, meaning yung babae may ibang lalaki, compared to pag nag-cheat yung lalaki at may kinakasamang babae, you can only get guilty of the crime of concubinage when binahay and under scandalous circumstances. So, pag hindi niya binahay, pero may kasama siya, iba, na hindi niya asawa, it's not enough. So, you see the inequality in that, right? And people would share, even like close friends or people that I meet, they'll say, I watched that, but this is what I experience. Even when it comes to illegitimate children, when the father really does not want to recognize, paano yan yung support or kulang yung support? Dapat ba may lalagay na number on the financial support? Yung ganong mga aspeto, which makes me think about these things na, oo nga, we have to consider the practical side. How do we do that? Na you also have to balance if the other congressmen will be in favor of that. Kasi I'm only one vote at the end of the day, and you need to get a majority vote for that to pass. And then Senate pa, diba? So, those are the balancing things that we have to consider.
Yeah. But for example, yung VAUSI, correct me if I'm wrong, but you filed yung bill na to include men and yung LGBTQ couples to recognize that. How was the response here at the House? And how was the response ng public?
Yeah. So, here in the House, of course, when we heard it, the women's group, syempre did not like that. And I do respect it. Because nga matagal before VAUSI or women's rights were even really recognized and to have that. So parang we didn't want to undermine that and the efforts, which is I very much respect. So parang more filing of another bill or a substitute bill or an amended bill that I'm really just going to consider calling it anti-domestic abuse. So hindi ko gagalawin yung VAUSI, there's still gonna be VAUSI. But looking into the other countries kasi with the anti-domestic abuse, at least for women, we'll still have the VAUSI law. And then it can be incorporated in that if ever. And then for the LGBT and the men, kumbaga siguro yung TRO process or some sort would not be as quick as compared to a woman or a child being beaten. But it's still, syempre, I'm studying that because again, it's a balancing act. And you have to make sure that the women's groups are also protected. The various resource persons are also okay with that, the various people that are involved. So it's something that's still underway kasi pinag-aaralan kasi nga it's a sensitive thing. But again, diba, coming from, meron din naman kasing naaape and kawawa. So paano naman natin proprotectan? So it's a really challenging balancing act that we really have to study further.
So what's your takeaway? Kasi you have a really big social media following and a lot of people respond, a lot of people interact with your posts when you're explaining the law or simplifying it. Filipinos want to understand the law more, and how can parang, I guess, the House of Representatives open a vehicle for them to, mas maintindihan nila yung law, number one, and number two, make it a interactive parang activity between lawmakers and the public.
I don't think it's more about people wanting to understand the law because most of the time, yung mga ganon, gusto nilang maging abogado. But I think it's more of people want to know their options. Or if their rights get, if they get hurt, if may violation ng kanilang mga, diba, personal rights or whatnot. They want to know if may chance ba, if pwedeng kasuhan or mapapanagutan ba, or it's really more of, do they have an option? Or what are their options to do that? And in terms of the House, I think we are doing that. We already have the press conferences done by various congressmen and women answering questions from the media daily. We have the Congress TV. I think most of the committee hearings, especially the ones that's happening on the floor and right now with the RBH 7, is broadcasted online on various social media channels, even YouTube and various pages of the House. So it's all about transparency at the end of the day. And people are interactive there. I'm not sure na lang if there's ever going to be a mechanism that siguro mababasa ba or some comments or concerns that the House will look at to have a more interactive, as you were saying. I cannot speak on behalf of the House, but maybe, we don't know. Pero at least we're trying now to be more aggressive in terms of really what the leadership has promised, that there's transparency, that people know what's happening within the halls and the floors and walls of Congress, and what the congressmen want, what they're talking about, and so yan, at least may ganong aspeto. Hopefully nga, no, magkakaroon ng somewhat siguro public comments, but also the difficulty there, paano naman kung may trolls, 'di ba, na it's going to hinder or put negativity or yung comments ang panggulo. Kasi may ganun eh. Baka naman, mawawala din yung tinatry natin na open discussion, diba? So there has to be some filter and again, balance on that.
But you yourself have been like the subject of scrutiny like recently with the People's Initiative, yung allegations against your party list, and also the SMNI probe. It put a spotlight on you. So I was wondering, how did you handle all of that scrutiny? How are you addressing that? Kasi on social media, if you look at it, for example, on TikTok, there are videos na spliced, diba? Like, sometimes you're on the receiving end of the attacks. And I've noted that your personal advocacy is anti-bullying. So if you're really active on a platform that's growing on misinformation and disinformation, like, how are you handling that and balancing that?
I did a post on this na I admitted that it was hard. I cried. Syempre, diba, any ordinary human being, regardless of the position, tao lang naman din tayo, diba? And it was really difficult in the beginning because na-reinforce na naman yung trauma ko that I got bullied growing up. So parang ano ba to? Parang hindi pa natapos. But, you know, you come to realize na kahit naman kahit anong position mo, bubuli ka. Kahit anong gawin mo, may masasabi yung mga tao. And I guess I'm fortunate enough to have a platform to talk about it, to talk about these things, and to share to the people that it happens. Because most of the time, and I've talked about this, most of the time, when that happens and medyo mahina yung loob ng isang tao, they end up, doing the unthinkable. And I do not want that to happen. So I did a post on it to share that kind of journey. And I would always say that you use always your pain. It's okay to feel it. Normal lang naman. Because if you don't feel it, you don't acknowledge it, it's unhealthy, right? It will be toxic. But if you do acknowledge it and you feel it, then you can turn your pain into your purpose. And that's what I always tell people, especially those who are being bullied, have been bullied. And I talk about that. And with this, with the social media, I guess, ganun diba? Especially if you're a girl. Pag babae ka, mas, it's twice the work for half the opportunity, I would always say. And pag babae ka, pag may ginawa ka, mas maraming, for some reason, masasabi yung mga tao at masama ang pananalita nila. So minsan parang, kung lalaki ako, ginawa ko yon, would it have been that mean on social media? Probably. We don't know. I mean, Taylor Swift even talked about, diba, yung ganon, na parang, it's harder for her, maybe because she's a girl. She really pushes for women empowerment, right? So, it's something that I just take it as a life lesson or a way to grow as a person and just take the higher road. But also, it makes me want to fight more for anti-bullying causes. And for women that are being mistreated, and for disinformation and misinformation na it's always taken into like out of context, 'di ba? Ang dali kasing i-cut lang ang video. And then gagawan mo na ng kwento. And to be honest, mas madali naman talaga makinig sa chismis or anything negative, right? So I would just always tell people, I hope you watch the whole thing. Or I hope, you don't watch the splices that does misinformation. Kasi madaling gawin yun. But a lot of people don't take time to really watch the full context or the whole thing. We can't blame people. Short naman talaga yung attention span nowadays, or even before, diba? But sana people consider it. And in a perfect world, I hope this disinformation and misinformation will stop and the troll farms will stop. But we do not live in a perfect world. We can only adjust and take the higher road and hopefully be that ripple of change na lang. Instead of makisama ka dun, find ways na lang to address the issue and hopefully change perspective and how people think of these matters. Kasi diba, masusustento lang naman yung ganon pag-iisip. Magiging norm or culture siya if a lot of people follow that way of thinking and that way of living. So I guess if we stop that, or at least individually, kahit, diba, a group of society will not engage in that or involve themselves with that. Hopefully, matitigil yun.
Yeah. But do you directly respond to like the allegations? Like, for example, your party list's alleged involvement. Do you set the record straight?
I did do a post on it with regard to the People's Initiative. I did a post on it na I was not here. And I made it still entertaining kasi people usually don't read the responses or watch that. So it's still my personality to do it. And I answered it. Not a lot of people just watch it, diba? Kasi parang tapos na. Mas madaling manira at makinig sa paninira kaysa pakinggan kung ano yung totoo. And I answered that. Sometimes I would comment pag sumasobra na. But it's reached a point na, well, first, I'm really, really busy. And second, it gets toxic. At alam mo naman na hindi totoong mga tao most of the time because if you look at their page, alam mong hindi, di ba? Walang following or kaka-start lang nila or whatsoever. It gets toxic at some point. But, yeah, before I used to. Now, sometimes I would, pero parang di na lang, parang mas marami akong kailangan gawin to be more productive and use my time more productively.
But that's even after parang, I think, it was during the Senate probe na lumabas na it was parang workers from the party list yung involved dun sa signatories.
Even before the Senate probe, there are personalities that have connected me and all that. Like I said, I've already addressed this issue. There's nothing more to press on. And I already said, if I really did something and you can prove it, then file a case. Diba? Huwag yung nagtuturoan ka. And, okay. Diba? So, ako lang, if talagang may mali, just file na lang a case. And then, let's see what happens, right? At least ako, nakakatulog ako sa gabi. Diba?
Let's take in stock the past few months, no? Parang, how has your experience in the House of Representatives been so far? And what's next for Kong Attorney Migs?
What is next? Next week. So, it's been a growing experience, like personally, mentally, spiritually, professionally. And as a neophyte and with all the things happening in the house and the leadership, diba, maraming mga mabilis na trabaho, maraming mga napasa, mga niledak, and it's been a busy year and a half almost, right? Or more than that. I do not regret anything. I will not change any of the experience. It's made me who I am like right now. And I don't, like I said, nakakatulog ako sa gabi, diba? I pray a lot for guidance to make sure that, hindi ka mawala sa landas, hopefully. And just, you can only pray so much to be guided to make, hopefully, the right decisions. In terms of what is next, gosh, I can't even think of what to do next week. But hopefully, diba, with my show with PBA and PBA, we get to continue serving the people, doing what we do, and help more people, educate more people the best way that I can and know how.
So that's all the questions that we have. If you have anything else to add that we weren't able to discuss during the whole interview,
No, nothing else naman. But really, I just really do want to touch on the whole. I hope people do not take into things out of context nga. Tama na yung mga misinformation and disinformation, right? It's toxic. It's not healthy for the people. It's not healthy, especially for the young ones, to be misinformed and to have a lot of disinformation because it doesn't help. Diba? We want to protect especially the younger generation so that they can grow up in a society that's, you know, truthful, that's hopefully not a lot of hatred, and hopefully in a world where they'll feel safe, diba? And thank you so much for inviting me today and for making me part of your Women's Month celebration. I hope all the women will find it in their hearts to fight for what they believe in, continue pursuing your dreams, and don't ever, ever, ever let anyone say you cannot do what you want to do in life.
all right. So that was Congresswoman Attorney Migs. And this is Rappler Talk. But don't worry, the conversation doesn't end there. You can always download Rappler's app. We have community chats. We can continue the conversation on the Philippine politics or governance chat room. Again, I'm Casey Valmonte, and I hope to see you soon.